Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. If you love rugby and the All Blacks, subscribe to the channel and join us on the journey.
Will Jordan's injury has come at exactly the moment when the All Blacks are preparing to enter a new phase under Dave Rennie, and what I feel is not simply concern about a star player being sidelined. It is also a sense of regret for a team that is trying to rebuild its identity, stability, and confidence before facing enormous challenges ahead. Over the past few years, Will Jordan has become an essential part of how the All Blacks operate. Whether playing on the wing or at fullback, he always brings something special whenever he has the ball. Some players leave their mark through physical power, others through technical brilliance, but Jordan stands out because of his intelligence in movement and the uncanny feeling that he already knows where space will appear before the opposition even realizes it. That is an incredibly rare quality in modern rugby. That is why his calf injury, arriving just before crucial matches, feels like more than just a personal setback for one player.
It feels like a major challenge for the entire All Black system. Great teams always need depth, but there are certain individuals whose absence immediately strips away part of the team's identity. Jordan is that kind of player. What makes me think even more deeply about this situation is the timing of the injury. Dave Rennie is currently in the process of building trust and establishing his mark on this new era. A new head coach always needs reliable core players to implement tactical ideas. And Jordan was clearly one of the most important pieces in that plan. When a player who has started most of the team's recent matches suddenly becomes unavailable, every calculation is affected. At the same time, this is exactly what makes rugby both fascinating and ruthless. Every great team eventually has to learn how to adapt to adversity. No side can rely forever on one individual, no matter how brilliant that person may be. And perhaps Jordan's injury is forcing the All Blacks to answer a very important question. Do they truly possess the squad depth required to remain the number one team in the world? I find it especially interesting that so many replacement options are being discussed, because each name reflects a different direction the All Blacks could take under Rennie.
Damian McKenzie is probably the first option most people think of, and honestly, I also feel he is the most logical choice right now. McKenzie is the kind of player who can create something extraordinary out of a single moment. What I admire most about him is not only his speed or handling skills, but also his unique confidence. Some players become more conservative under pressure, but McKenzie often becomes even more dangerous in chaotic situations. At the same time, I understand why doubts still exist. When playing at fly half, McKenzie sometimes carries too much responsibility for organizing the attack, which can limit his natural attacking instincts. Moving him back to fullback could give him greater freedom and allow him to focus on what makes him most dangerous: counterattacks, exploiting space, and creating attacking opportunities from deep. If that happens, I think this could become a huge opportunity for McKenzie to re-establish his value in the All Blacks jersey. Elite sport is always full of moments like this.
Sometimes one player's injury opens the door to a career-changing opportunity for someone else. Beauden Barrett, meanwhile, brings a completely different feeling. Barrett is experienced, composed, and understands the pressure of international rugby better than almost anyone else. Whenever I watch him play, I always feel he is the type of player coaches trust in the biggest matches. He may no longer possess the explosive peak form of his prime years, but his experience and game management remain incredibly valuable. What makes me curious is what Dave Rennie will prioritize more: stability or unpredictability. If he wants safer control of matches, Barrett is the reliable option. But if he wants a faster and more attack-oriented style of rugby, McKenzie probably fits better. Ruben Love is another extremely interesting case. I really admire how New Zealand rugby consistently dares to give opportunities to young players. That is one of the reasons they have maintained their strength across generations.
Love has not yet reached the consistent level of his senior teammates, but he brings fresh energy, boldness, and fearlessness. Sometimes young players make the biggest difference precisely because they enter the field without being burdened by past failures or overwhelming expectations. What excites me most is the possibility that uncapped players like Joshua Morby or Zahn Sullivan could receive opportunities. I can clearly feel the competitive spirit that defines New Zealand rugby. No position belongs to anyone forever. If you perform well in Super Rugby, you earn the right to dream of wearing the All Blacks jersey. I genuinely love that philosophy. In modern sport, many national teams become overly dependent on reputation and experience, which sometimes causes them to overlook players who are actually in the best form. But if Rennie is willing to give opportunities to new names, it would signal that he wants to build a truly competitive squad where current form matters more than past reputation. Especially with the Rugby World Cup 2027 still ahead, expanding squad depth right now is absolutely essential. A team that wants to become world champion cannot rely on just 15 great players. They need at least 30 to 35 players capable of performing at the highest level. I also understand why supporters want Mo'unga back as soon as possible.
He is the type of player who can completely transform the All Blacks attack. At the same time, though, I believe rules exist for a reason. If New Zealand bends the rules simply because of short-term pressure, it could create a precedent that becomes difficult to control in the future. As much as I would love to see Mo'unga return, I still feel that fairness and consistency within the system are more important than temporary emotions. Sometimes in life, we are just like the All Blacks right now. We become so accustomed to relying on something important, a person, a plan, a source of stability, that when it suddenly disappears, everything feels uncertain. Yet difficult moments like these are often what force us to grow, adapt, and discover new possibilities we never previously considered. Jordan's injury is certainly something nobody wanted. But perhaps this could become the opportunity for another name to step into the spotlight. Perhaps this could become the moment when the All Blacks discover a new direction that suits their future even better. For me personally, the most meaningful thing is not necessarily who replaces Jordan, but how the entire team responds to adversity. Great teams are not defined when they win comfortably. They are defined by how they rise after losing their most important pieces. And perhaps the next few weeks will show us very clearly the true character of the All Blacks under Dave Rennie.
Thank you for standing with Scrum Masters Elite _UK. Adversity reveals the true character of the All Blacks.